Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Stefan Grobe. My guest today is the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of North Macedonia, Timcho Mosunski, who is in Brussels for an informal meeting with his EU counterparts to discuss the bloc's relations with the Western Balkans. Thank you for coming on the show, Minister.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for helping us raise awareness of why the Western Balkans is important to not only the European Union, but to the citizens of the European Union.
My pleasure. Now, North Macedonia changed its name to unlock EU accession talks, yet membership still feels distant. Do many citizens now feel the EU broke its promises?
So what is a very stark reminder is that our country received candidate status together with Croatia in 2005. It has been over 21 years since that moment. We received the first recommendation for opening accession negotiations in 2009, yet still we haven't opened accession negotiations. Now, throughout all of these struggles, throughout the very difficult decisions that have been made within our country, what one can first conclude is that, and many here would be very surprised, is that there is still a huge support for the EU path in our country. Over 70% of our citizens support EU membership and support the EU accession process, with the caveat being that many of these citizens who are pro-EU, both in values and faith and so forth, don't believe that the door will actually open. And this is where we need, together with the member states, together with the European Union, to prove that this is not the fact. There have been countless constitutional changes, mostly related to identity issues, and still we haven't had the right to open accession negotiations.
You still believe that the whole enlargement process is merit-based or purely political?
So first of all, one of the things that we have to agree on is that Europe cannot afford strategic ambiguity in the Western Balkans anymore. Until very recently, I think it was perceived that the process of European enlargement was a process where the ball was only in the court of the candidate countries. But this is not, it's not a solo match. It's a process that requires fairness, it requires predictability, but it also requires political courage coming from both sides, because it is not just about connectivity, it is not just about trade and economy, but what we have now realized is that enlargement towards the Western Balkans is also an issue of strategic imperative.
Do you believe that there are some EU countries, existing members, who simply do not want the Western Balkans in the EU, no matter what the reform process is achieving?
This is a very difficult question to answer. I think strategically there is a very broad consensus among EU member states that enlargement towards the Western Balkans has to happen. There are countries that are principled supporters, that practice what they preach, and there are some countries who only say the right things but don't follow up enough. And this is where we need maybe a stronger consensus. But what I can say is that on our part, we will do our side of the obligation, and that is delivering on reforms. We are one of the 3 countries, together with Montenegro and Albania, that are delivering on the reform agenda, which is very concrete and solid proof that internally we are moving forward when it comes to EU-related reforms. And we are also a country that is 100% aligned with the European Union's common foreign and security policy, the CFSP. And even going beyond that, we have a security and defense partnership with the European Union.
Now, how damaging is the ongoing dispute with Bulgaria over language and history to your country's accession bid? Is it the main roadblock on the path to the EU?
Sadly, yes. And at the loss of both our country, but the loss of Bulgaria, the loss of the whole region. What I think that Bulgaria must do is that it must recognize the strategic moment while it still exists. And I think, and I hope that Bulgaria will recognize the possibilities that exist, that it will open dialogue with us.
Is there a red line for North Macedonia? A moment when you say no more delays, no more concessions?
First of all, like I said, we will continue to do everything that is necessary on our European path to be the best candidate possible. But on the other hand, we are not prepared to negotiate on issues that are related to our national identity, our national history, and our language. sadly, the narrative that has been created and pushed forward from Sofia. These are debates for historians. These are debates for academics. Let them discuss and let them speak on the basis of objective facts. The role of politicians and leaders should be to be forward-looking, to be speaking about issues that unite us. So if you're asking us, do we have red lines? Of course we do, because we do not believe that this is a narrative and a debate that should be ongoing in 21st century Europe.
If EU accession keeps stalling, do you fear that North Macedonia would drift towards the orbit of countries like Russia, China, Turkey?
What is a fact is that hybrid threats thrive where frustration grows and where trust erodes. This is a fact. What is also a fact is that there is a severe amount of malign influence in our entire region, coming not just from Russia, but also from China as well. This is a reality that we all have to face and we all have to live with. But what I can tell you is that we are a country that is westward looking. We are a country that is proud to be a member of NATO, whose troops contribute in NATO missions from the Baltics to the Balkans. We are a country that prides itself in being pro-European, not just in rhetoric, but in the values that we implement within our society. So while the threat does exist, what I can tell you is that as a country, we have proven not only to say that we are resilient, but to be resilient in practice. Imagine a country that for over 20 years has been forced to do many things for the promise of a European future, from constitutional changes several times to even the change of the name, as you said, and has not received delivery from European institutions, but has still remained extremely pro-European.
On NATO, North Macedonia has been a member since 2020. Now, has the membership delivered the benefits, security and political benefits people expected?
So NATO is without a doubt the strongest collective security community that civilization has known and will probably know. And in that sense, what it has provided for our country is much needed stability in a region that is extremely volatile. And we are now, in the past several years, a security provider from the region. And you see that through our presence in the EU-led Althea mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina, our role in the KFOR mission in Kosovo. And in that sense, we are also a very committed ally. We are a country that is moving in its defense expenditures. If you ask me the fundamental question of is NATO membership positive for the future of the country, for creating a good investment climate, but also a clearer strategic outlook, without a doubt, my answer would be
How do you see the current discussion about the future of NATO with America threatening to withdraw, et cetera, et cetera? What does that inspire in you?
My view is that thanks to President Trump, Secretary Rubio, and the entire foreign policy apparatus of the United States, NATO is stronger than it has ever been. This is undeniable coming out of last year's summit in The Hague. We now have, in about a month or so, another summit in Ankara where we are due to take stock of what we've achieved in the last year. But through U.S. leadership, NATO received a wake-up call. We have all committed to 5% by 2035, which is a very ambitious agenda, but also a very necessary agenda, considering not only the threat that we have from the Russian aggression against Ukraine, which is still ongoing, but threats in the Indo-Pacific, threats in the Middle East. So in that sense, if you ask me, NATO is stronger than it's ever been. There will be disagreements between member states, as there have been in the past. But if you look at the fundaments, following the Hague Summit, through U.S. leadership, we are at a point where the alliance is stronger than it's ever been.
North Macedonia has recently signed a trade agreement with the United States that eliminates all customs duties on U.S. industrial and agricultural products. How is that playing out for the North Macedonian economy?
So the United States is an important trading partner, with, of course, the European Union and its member states being our key trading partner. We aim to stimulate good economic and trade relationship with the United States because the United States is one of our strategic partners. We believe that the joint statement, which will soon lead to a trade agreement, is beneficial for both sides. We have seen movement in the trade portfolio between the two countries in a positive momentum.
Your close ties to the United States, could those be a bridge between Brussels and Washington? And do you envision that role in the future?
So we are a government that aims to do all that it can to move forward its nation in the interests of its citizens. And that is why I like to point out in many of my interviews that our foreign policy is built on three key fundamental pillars. And that is our path towards EU membership and our alignment with the CFSP, our strategic partnership with the United States, and being a responsible ally in NATO. And it is not always easy to manage these three key constants in a world which, as we agreed previously, is very volatile. But if necessary, we are always prepared to help move forward any process in relation to when it is connected to any key relationship that we have, whether it is with the European Union, its member states, and our key strategic ally in Washington. We are a small country, although what we have come to understand is that in this world, we are also a country that carries properly its own weight, no matter how small sometimes that weight may seem, whether it is from a military or economic perspective. And sometimes small nations can provide necessary impetus when necessary in various different constellations.
All right, wonderful conclusion. Timcho Musunski, the Foreign Minister of North Macedonia. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for the privilege of this interview.